Good morning and welcome to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Here it is, Tuesday. 2 weeks from today is 2024. I mean, we'll be in a new year. 3 weeks from today, rather.
That's wild, and 2024 is going to be extremely crazy. So make sure you support us so we can continue to give you the conservative perspective on all this stuff going on.
Because you're not going to get it much from the other stations that charge a bloody fortune for their ads. And we're extremely reasonable, but we need something in order for us to still be here. So please, anything you can do to help us out. If you know a business, when you're in a business, say, check us out. All you have to do is say, watch an episode, because you can watch us anytime, even though we're live right now from 7 until 8, Monday through Thursday. But you can watch a podcast anytime, anywhere.
Yeah, and you have to go to thelocalspin.com. That is thelocalspin.com in order to support us. And also keep in mind that if you're running for office, this is a great place to advertise what you're running for office for and why people should vote for you.
Exactly. So check us out.
Yes. And, Bill, yesterday news broke that now we are having the Chinese basically attack our grid.
Yeah.
On top of that, Rumble is experiencing a cyber attack that started this weekend, which also probably has something to do with Alex Jones coming back onto Twitter, which is a really big deal. He was banned in, I believe, 2018 for his comments surrounding Sandy Hook, which were taken out of context. And he also went on other shows and apologized for being insensitive to the issue. But people not wanting him back on Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter, but he's back on there. I believe that he was on Steven Crowder yesterday, which is why Rumble had so many issues yesterday. So if you were watching our show yesterday, that is part of the problem on Rumble, was that he was on Steven Crowder, and they did not want that happening. So lots of cyber attacks happening on Rumble.
So that's one of the reasons that you need to have a free press, and it's unfortunate we don't have a free press in this country. We have now a lapdog for the DNC.
Yeah, and breaking news coming in as we're having cyber attacks.
So get ready.
Post reveals hackers affiliated with China's People's Liberation Army have infiltrated critical services here in the U.S.
Alexandra Hoff joins us now from our nation's capital. Alex, this is not good.
No, it's not. I mean, this infiltration appears to be part of a broader effort to insert chaos into our logistical systems. The information collected could then be weaponized if the U.S. and China were to become engaged directly in the Pacific. According to reporting from the Washington Post citing multiple U.S. and industry security officials, China's cyber army is invading critical U.S. services, like an attempt to break into the system behind Texas's independent power grid. Other victims include a water utility in Hawaii, a West Coast port, and at least one oil and gas pipeline, according to that report you're seeing there. Brandon Wells, executive director of the Department of Homeland Security's cybersecurity agency, told the Washington Post this, quote, "It is very clear that Chinese attempts to compromise critical infrastructure are in part to pre-position themselves to be able to disrupt or destroy that critical infrastructure in the event of a conflict, to either prevent the United States from being able to project power into Asia, or to cause societal chaos inside the United States to affect our decision-making around a crisis." The report notes that over the past year, hackers affiliated with the People's Liberation Army in China have accessed the computer systems of about 24 critical entities.
Well, and Bill, I think that this is something that I'm kind of confused about, because I thought that a lot of these infrastructures were supposed to be offline.
Yeah, and they were supposed to be reinforced with all of this extra security. Unfortunately, one of the experts that was was on this morning with Fox and Friends said that China is preparing to go to war with us. And it's not going to be because they want to go into Taiwan, and they want us to be able not to project our military power in that region. Same reason that the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor 80 plus years ago, was that they wanted to take over these areas and these islands around them in the South China Sea and elsewhere, and they didn't want us interfering with it.
Well, if we had an administration that wasn't bought and paid for by China, we probably would be able to do a lot of damage to China, since they are a house of cards. We are, because we get so many goods and services from them, we are financing them. And if we just cut off that relationship, It would be in some big trouble.
Yeah, they would, because they're having trouble. Their growth is not what it was, and we certainly need to bring our pharmaceuticals back, for God's sake.
Oh yes.
But so many other things that when we were sending all this stuff over to China years ago, I said this isn't a good idea. When Bill Clinton decided that he was going to sell the Chinese computers because they said they were going to use them for weather forecasting, I said, is this guy as stupid as I think he is? And apparently he was. They didn't use those computers for weather forecasting. All of a sudden, their missiles, and usually when their missiles were fired, the safest place to be was the target. Now they're extremely accurate because of the computer systems that we sold them, and all the when you send a business up over in China, they steal all your stuff. They steal patents. They
Intellectual property.
Exactly, intellectual property. They do all sorts of reverse engineering on things, and I was always told as a kid, Brittany, how brilliant the Chinese were. You know, that the Asians were so much smarter than we are. Then why do they have to steal our stuff?
They are very.
We should be stealing theirs.
Well, here's the thing: they are very smart. However, there is no room for creativity because of how they dictate the learning. So I think that's what makes it very different here in the U.S. is that we do allow for creativity and exploration, which is a benefit in the U.S. But when we're moving everything over there, I mean, it doesn't really help us out any.
Well, the other problem that we have is that a lot of the equipment, a lot of the various items that we have are made by smaller companies, and these are small businesses, but they have a particular niche in the industry, and they don't have the cybersecurity that big corporations can afford, and so it's easier to hack into them. But believe me, they've got their eyes on Taiwan right now, and they know that this president is weak, and that our military is being sacrificed for sending a lot of ammunition over to Ukraine, and we're short on ammo.
Yeah, well, imagine that.
That's not a good thing either.
Well, I think that they've done such a good job of destroying this country and destroying our military forces as well, begging people to come back after they were requiring vaccinations. I do think that this is just a little coincidental for me, and they cannot get people to join the military. So now, of course, they're going to solve the problem with their other crisis that they've created, which is bringing
illegal
all these
aliens.
Military-aged men into this country, and they're going to turn them into fighters, and then also give them citizenship here in the U.S., which I think is a terrible idea.
Awful. Yeah, but leave that to the Democratans to do it. We played Dick Turbin from Illinois the other day about what he thought was a great idea. All these illegal aliens could go into the U.S. military and serve us honorably and faithfully, and then that would become citizens. Oh, please.
Such a terrible idea. And Lizzie Warren's with us this morning, and she says, and our government advertises the ammo shortage. Yeah, they advertise our weakness all over the place, which is really fun and exciting for everyone. And here's the other thing. That press secretary, I'm surprised she's lasted this long. She's been there a long time, I feel like, for a press secretary.
Well, that's because she's such an idiot. She can lie her way through. I saw the meme the other day of sending her there. She's sitting in a McDonald's outfit and saying, "You want lies with that?"
Yep. I mean, she's something else, Bill.
Prince Jean-Pierre.
Well, the thing is like I think that we're going to have to do something different in this country, and one of the things is, number one, you can clearly tell that she's lying about almost everything that comes out of her mouth.
Yeah.
Joe Biden can't even string together two words that make sense. And we have Blinken lying. We have John Kerry flying around the world lying.
Oh, Boltneck.
Yeah. I mean, and then we have people like Kevin McCarthy that, are agreeing to do a lot of this damage to the U.S. I mean, how much money he allowed them to spend. His whole excuse was, all I was doing was trying to support the military. That's what he's telling everyone.
Yeah,
that's a lie, Kevin McCarthy. And you don't care about this country, or else you would have finished your serving out your term. So
now we're down, and then we vote out a guy that hadn't been convicted. All right, so he was a sleazebag. Okay. but he had all the credentials to be a Democrat as much as he had lied and stolen, cheated, and everything else during his campaign. He
I'm sorry, we have
qualifies.
plenty of Republicans up there that are just as sleazy. They're just better at hiding it, and they have the right friends.
Mhm.
So, I mean, how many of those
So
people
now-
have sold out the country?
Yeah, so they get rid of him. McCarthy retires and resigns, and then what happens? We have a one-vote majority now.
Yep.
One
exciting.
vote.
And it all happened within the same week. That's so weird, Bill.
Yeah,
The
just a
timing
coinc-
of
just-
things.
just a coincidence.
Timing is just impeccable.
Uh-huh.
It's very frustrating. Very, very frustrating when you look at what's going on and how the Republicans have no idea what they're doing. Let's be honest.
Like that's something new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the things happening locally here is the Chatham County case that happened, was it like a year ago almost? More than a year ago. The child that was killed by her mother and her boyfriend, now that case is being pushed back here in Chatham County.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Flynn Snyder from the CBS affiliate WTOC here had this report yesterday from the courtroom.
Thanks for joining us for the news at 5. I'm Dawn Baker.
And I'm Mike Sela. Lawyers for the Chatham County mother charged with murdering her own infant back in court today. Jennifer Cooper faces murder, child cruelty, and drug charges stemming from the August death of her son, Randy Taylor Jr. WTOC's Flynn Snyder was the only reporter in the courtroom and has the latest in the case.
Cooper was scheduled to enter a plea here at Chatham County Superior Court, but that hearing was pushed back after her lawyer said she's undergoing a series of evaluations. Cooper faces 3 counts after police say they found her son dead in this Quanco Road mobile home in August. A judge denied Cooper bond back in November, saying she poses a significant threat to the community. Cooper was also ordered to undergo mental health evaluations and treatment. In previous hearings, prosecutors say toxicology reports showed both Cooper and 2-month-old Taylor tested positive for meth. No official cause of death has been released, and Cooper did not appear in court today. Cooper's next court date is scheduled for February. Reporting in Savannah, Flynn Snyder, WTOC News.
It's sad to see this stuff happening in our county. There is a serious problem when the previous case that I was talking about actually is not related to this one, but still having a mother involved in killing her own child.
Yeah, this is something that we see so many things that are going on now with depression and all of the other things that and I think it has like a lot that has to do with all the psychotropic drugs that we're giving kids as they're coming along these days. And just about every ad that you see now for pharmaceuticals is a depressant, an antidepressant type of drug. Vraylar is one of the biggest advertisers right now. And it says it has, 2 different ingredients or something that's supposed to fight depression. And we see so much of this going on now, and it's really, really sad.
Well, I think the drugs are part of the problem, Bill. And when you have people prescribing drugs for depression, but then that drug causes you to be, so on a downhill that they give you an upper in our communities, I think that we would be a lot better off.
All right, coming up next.
Well, those university presidents are under fire. One is gone. The Harvard one is being asked to resign as she is being accused of plagiarism.
Yeah. She has no intention of leaving, and then I'll buy you dinner if tomorrow if they actually get rid of her.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, when you opened up the Chewy box, you went a bit...
bonkers. That's one word for it.
I guess I blacked out. This is the best squeaky toy ever.
Probably shouldn't, but we did get you a few more gifts.
Honey.
Ooh, there's more.
Chewy's prices were so great.
You don't need to explain yourself, Linda. Keep on saving.
Pets aren't just pets. They're more.
Well, I hope I got a leaf blower this year.
You got a turtleneck.
Unwrap the excitement this holiday season with great deals from Chewy.
Foxy Loxy, Coffee Fox, and Henny Penny, making life better for Savannahans with their kolaches, tacos, coffees. They're just amazing. Buy local and keep the torch lit.
Good morning and welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Glad to have you aboard on this Tuesday. Today is also Shop with a Cop. And
in this case,
something that I established a few years ago when I was working at WTKS and iHeartMedia, and it is the torch has been kept lit by Scott Rifen, a morning show host down in Brunswick now that's simulcast here, and that's going to start this morning. Taking 10 families from Ronald McDonald House out shopping with a cop at the Target on Victory Drive. We'll have highlights for you tomorrow. And
Very good.
Thanks for everybody who pitched in to help these families who have spent just about all of their money and more trying to keep their child alive or get well at that wonderful children's hospital that we have here at Memorial.
Very good. A very good thing to do.
For sure.
Lizzie Warren's with us this morning and said that woman should not get bail, but neither should all the murderers who are let out on bail. Shalina Cook-Jones has been one of the worst DAs in Chatham County history. She is running for re-election, so don't vote for her.
Yeah.
Do not vote for her.
Don't vote for anybody with a D by their name.
I don't disagree with that statement. Lizzie Warren, if the doctor won't prescribe the drugs, they're equally available from the southern border distributors. That is the really big problem with everything coming over the border. There is a lot of availability of drugs that probably should not be available to anyone.
Exactly.
But, talking about these university I want to call them professors, but once were professors at some point and now have become university presidents, which I have no idea how that happened. Also interesting that they are all female. But yesterday, Sarah Carter was speaking with some of the UPenn students and got some of their reactions.
Yeah, you're going to be surprised at what you hear from these University of Pennsylvania students who don't seem to be a bit just about as clueless as possible. And this is one of our Poison Ivy League schools.
All right, following her controversial testimony on anti-Semitism last week, University of Pennsylvania President Liz McGill announced her resignation over the weekend. Now, our very own Sarah Carter, she's on the ground. She's in Pennsylvania, where she spoke with students earlier today. I bet you didn't have a Fox News mic flag on at the time. Sarah, we welcome you back.
No, Sean, I did not have the Fox News mic on at the time, and it was just because we didn't have it. But I can tell you this, I'm standing right just outside the University of Pennsylvania, and it wasn't just the leadership that wavered on whether or not calls for genocide against the Jewish people violated the code of conduct. But a lot of students I spoke with today, Sean, they didn't know how to answer that very same question. And many of them equated calls for genocide as just someone else's opinion. Take a listen. It was very difficult for her and the others to talk about, no, we do not accept genocide on campus as a form of speech.
Yeah, I think it's big news for a reason. I guess I haven't spoken about it with too many people at campus, and I don't really know how I feel about it.
Just because they're very scrutinized on a national level, I think, right now, and whatever they say, there's probably going to be a lot of commentary about it, so I think it was hard for them to answer, even though I don't think it should have been.
Could the campus then say, that's unacceptable, we don't accept a call for the genocide of a group of people?
Well, I think that's the question that Liz was asked, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. And clearly there's heated opinions on both sides on this topic, and I don't really feel qualified to answer.
If someone stood up and called for the genocide of any group of people, that should not be tolerated on campus. Right.
I expect people to not be violent. I can't say my personal, obviously, stance on genocide is against it, but I'm not going to force anybody my political views.
While her position is difficult, the question itself was not that difficult to answer.
Sean, I got to tell you, it was a little bit mind-blowing when you hear people that can't stand up and say that the genocide of any group of people is wrong and that they would waver on those answers. But I got to tell you this isn't an anomaly. This is the reason why so many people are standing up and speaking out and calling for the removal of the leadership of MIT, Harvard, and we saw what happened here at the University of Pennsylvania with Liz McGill. Sean?
Yeah, a great report, Sarah. I'll get to this in a minute, but you have 20% of young people, 18 to 29, that believe the Holocaust was a myth. This is what indoctrination rather than education gets you. Anyway, great report, Sarah. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Unbelievable. I'm not qualified to answer that question. What the hell? You don't have to be qualified. It's not like you need a degree in anything.
Well, here's the thing. This is what happens when you start talking about the expert class. I'm not a biologist. I believe from a Supreme Court justice that now sits on the court that says I can't answer what a woman is because, I'm not an expert in biology. I think that's where we're getting to in this country is that if you're not an expert in something, then you really shouldn't be talking about it.
I can't tell.
This is very, very dangerous, especially when you look at what happened with COVID and the experts that were telling us what we could and could not do or what we should or should not be doing. But yet other people that should have been considered experts were silenced. So I think we're in a very dangerous country where we're allowing people to think that they shouldn't have an opinion on things because they're not an expert.
I can't tell you what water is because I'm not a chemist. All right, fine. All right. Meanwhile, Prager University has struck again and talking about all of this crap that's going on campuses these days. And this is their take on the situation with all this anti-Semitism rot.
Ivy League presidents refuse to say if calling for the genocide of Jews and Israelis violate their codes of conduct. Former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy announces a retirement in January. We'll tell you what this means for the House GOP. A new California law requires gender-neutral toys in store aisles, whatever those are. The climate summit in Dubai gets heated, and is your phone spying on you right now? We'll get into it. What's up, guys? Welcome to the wrap-up, where we break down the biggest stories of the week that you might have missed and definitely need to know. On Tuesday, university presidents from Harvard, MIT, and the University of Pennsylvania all refused to characterize calls for the genocide of Jews and Israelis as a violation of their school's code of conduct or even as bullying or harassment. Now, guys, you might remember in September of 2022, the Washington Free Beacon reported that mandatory undergraduate training at Harvard said that fat phobia and cis heterosexism, which simply means being straight, perpetuates violence and using the wrong pronouns constitutes abuse. In 2023, Harvard President Claudine Gay, Penn President Liz McGill, and MIT President Sally Kornbluth were unable to say whether or not calling for the genocide of Jews violates their code of conduct or that calling for mass murder is considered a threat or bullying. Now, all three university presidents admit their own students have staged rallies on school grounds calling for an intifada against Israeli Jews and Jews worldwide. Now, in response, Dave Portnoy of Barstool Sports has vowed not to hire MIT, Penn, or Harvard grads. But to be fair, I don't really know how many people who graduate Harvard are looking to work at Barstool Sports, but that's neither here nor there. We support the sentiment. Portnoy said in part, quote, the deans of three supposedly prestigious universities in the United States somehow refusing to condemn students calling for the genocide of Jews on campus, aka the murder of all Jews. Moving forward, I will not hire any student who graduates from any of these schools until these deans step down. Good for him. He also has a really cool shirt. It says Hamas University, and I guess that was Harvard's logo there. Anti-Semitism has risen sharply since the October 7th massacre by Hamas, and the ADL reports that since October 7th, the percentage of Jewish students who said that they feel comfortable with others on campus knowing they are Jewish dropped by nearly half to 38.6%. Now, guys, before we get to this next story, I want to remind you that my new series, Left vs. Right, premiered this week on PragerU. Check out this preview of the series. When it comes to the political divide in this country, there are two primary sides, the left and the right. The left believes the government should be the most powerful force in shaping a society. The right believes the government's role in society should be kept as limited as possible. Without the belief in an ever-expanding government, there is no left. Without a belief in limited government, there is no right. In this series, we'll discuss the differences between the left and the right on healthcare, education, taxes, business, and the concept of freedom. Do you know where you stand? Watch Left versus Right and find out. Guys, you can watch this entire 5-part limited series now on PragerU.com and the PragerU app. Representative Kevin McCarthy announced on Wednesday that he would resign his House seat at the end of December. McCarthy's resignation ends his 16-year career in the House. The Californian and former House Speaker pledged to, quote, serve America in new ways. I know my work is only getting started, though he did not allude to what his future plans would actually be. McCarthy's resignation comes after a bitter battle within the House GOP to oust him from his Speaker position earlier this year. The announcement also comes on the heels of the House voting to expel GOP Congressman George Santos after a series of scandals. Both of these departures shrink the already razor-thin GOP majority in the House, which makes any agenda even more difficult for Speaker Mike Johnson to move forward into 2024. Speaking of bad ideas that come out of California, major California toy retailers are now using gender-neutral sections. And if they don't use them, they'll be fined hundreds of dollars under a new pro-LGBTQ bill. Now, this bill signed by Governor Gavin Newsom in 2021, which will be enacted on January 1st and will require stores that sell, quote, childcare items or toys for children aged 12 years or younger to display a gender-neutral section or be fined up to $500. The bill states that stores will be required by law to have a designated gender-neutral toys, regardless of whether they have been traditionally marketed for either girls or for boys. I guess maybe it's just me, but aren't there more important issues to solve in California? I'm just asking, just wondering, just thinking out loud. How about the fact that California retailers are struggling to reduce losses as a result of the out-of-control crime and brazen theft on a massive scale? And rather than working on ways to enforce laws that criminalize theft, lawmakers are worrying about gender-neutral toy aisles. No word on whether this new law will make it easier for shoplifters in California to find the gender-neutral toys they're hoping to steal. Now, guys, things are heating up at the UN Climate Conference in Dubai. Don't we all love a good pun? On Monday, the president of the COP28 Climate Conference, Sultan Al-Jaber, declared that there is, quote, no science behind alarmist demands for an end to fossil fuel use, and said that any phase out of coal, oil, or gas would plunge the world into societal decay and, quote, back into caves. You gotta love it. Let's check out this clip.
I'm sorry, I respect you, and I do not accept any false accusations. I've been very clear about my position. This is wrong. And you're asking for a phase out of fossil fuel. Please help me, show me a roadmap for a phase out of fossil fuel that will allow for sustainable socio-economic development. Unless you want to take the world back into caves.
Now, guys, that was Al-Jaber responding to questions from Mary Robinson, the former Ireland president and former UN special envoy for climate change, during a live online event last month. Now, Al-Jaber hits the nail on the head when he says that no realistic plan or roadmap has been provided that shows how to phase out fossil fuels while still sustaining socioeconomic development. Now, that is certainly a breath of fresh air in the climate conference, and we definitely need more of that. It's time for your news to know. Are you being spied on by the government? Well, if you own an Apple or Google device, the answer is looking more like yes. On Tuesday, it was reported by a tech website, Ars Technica, that Apple recently admitted to secretly supplying governments around the world with data related to push notifications from its devices. The data provided to requesting governments by Apple included metadata detailing which app received a notification and when, along with the phone and associated Apple account information. The news was brought to light by Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon, who has been investigating the issue. In a recent letter, Wyden demanded the Department of Justice update policies that prohibit companies from informing the public of data requests from the government. In some cases, the data shared may include unencrypted content, which could range from back-end directives for the app to the actual text displayed by a user in the notification. Even now, there is no word how long these requests have been occurring and the exact nature of the foreign governments involved. That's it for me this week. I'll see you guys next week right here on the wrap up. But in the meantime, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Well, tell it like it is.
Yeah, lots of stuff going on. And the university thing, I think, is it's splitting and fracturing more of the left, I think. They've had a huge Jewish population has voted for them, but I don't know that they're going to be voting for the Democrats this time around based off of how they've been treated, and the response has been terrible, including from our delegation here in Chatham County. On the other side of the aisle, the Democrats all walked off the floor and did not vote. They got some bad advice from their leadership. I talked to our elected officials a little bit about this over the weekend because they voted to support the Jewish people and to condemn Hamas, which I think is appropriate. And a lot of the Jewish people actually voted for the Democrats in our county. And they did not take a vote on that because they walked out of the room, and I do know that one of them did call down here to see what they should do. They had called, I believe, a rabbi and talked to them. And they were like, you absolutely need to be taking that vote. They were already locked out, could not vote. So they did not take a vote on that, which I think is not good.
That's pathetic.
Yeah, this should be easy stuff. This used to be stuff we could agree on, but now it's almost like if the Republicans are for it, the Democrats have to vote against it. And it's just become so tumultuous within these House and Senate chambers that it's ridiculous, Bill.
Yeah,
they're not representing the people anymore.
Oh, and you can see that on so many issues, and of course we'll talk about that on the other side of the break, as to what we need to do going forward with our universities, among other things.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Foxy Loxy, Coffee Fox, and Henny Penny, making life better for Savannians with their kolaches, tacos, coffees. They're just amazing. Buy local and keep the torch lit.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Happy Tuesday. Glad to have you aboard here with us this morning, and looking forward to Shop with a Cop today. You know, when the cops go out and shop with these kids, I think they have more fun than the kids do.
Oh, I'm sure that you're right. I'm sure it's a highlight in what they normally have to do. So
yeah, no kidding.
Very good.
And it gives kids a great impression of the police and a much better angle on what they actually do. When the kids get to sit in the cop cars and turn on the siren and turn on the lights and everything, they just have a blast.
Yes, and Lizzie Warren's with us this morning. She says, and the COVID experts were almost 100% wrong. This goes back to us talking about the experts that have really made it so that if you are a layperson, you cannot speak on any topic.
This is the scary thing, because pharmacists were being threatened with their license. Remember, all of a sudden,
physicians too.
Yeah, hydroxychloroquine came along, and it's something that had been on the market for over 80 years. No side effects practically whatsoever. Been prescribed for years.
And ivermectin, which they framed as horse tranquilizer, which actually has been around as an antiviral for a very long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So all of a sudden, this little pill that cost maybe 25 cents was going to cure COVID, and was doing it. There were several testimonies from people who called in. I remember Sean Hannity had people call in and said, this thing saved my life. They were in intensive care, and they started taking this pill, and voila, they were out of the hospital in practically no time. So suddenly the emperor has no clothes, and they had to start shutting it down. Pharmacists were threatened. One doctor from Atlanta told me, he said he had to prescribe, when he had prescribed hydroxychloroquine for several patients long before COVID, But now, when he was prescribing it for a guy for COVID, he had to tell him it was for something else, or they couldn't get it at all. And some pharmacies were told, you can't sell that. So all of a sudden, Big Pharma steps in, and listen, I'm not anti Big Pharma necessarily. I mean, they make some great products that save lives and protect lives. And, I take some of that stuff. I take a blood pressure medicine that works wonders and no side effects whatsoever. But the most amazing thing is that suddenly hydroxychloroquine became the most deadly piece of pharmaceutical stuff. You would have thought it. You thought it was codeine or any of the other.
But remdesivir was also something that was killing people, and they were giving it out like candy. So. A lot of stuff that happened during COVID that was not great, misinformation, and this all came from the experts.
Yeah. And you saw at first, Dr. Fauci said, you don't need to wear a mask because masks aren't effective.
Correct.
Then suddenly, within a few months, it was wear a mask, and then it was maybe you ought to wear 2 masks.
Yeah, they got a little ridiculous with it. Lizzie Warren says the COVID experts were almost 100% wrong. So much for leadership by the Democrats, them walking out on that vote to support the Jewish people and condemn Hamas. Mm-hmm. And Lizzie Warren says her mother took hydroxychloroquine for 20 years and lived to be 86. It actually saved her life.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what happens when we're in an expert situation and we only can speak on things that we're experts in, which I think is very dangerous, Bill, and it doesn't allow the challenging that needs to happen in order for us to get to the best solution for things.
Yeah. But with the government shutting everything down was just pathetic. I railed against it when I was doing my radio broadcast and was heavily criticized in some circles for it.
But Van Johnson was reelected and he was the worst mayor probably in the state. Mm-hmm. So that's exciting and fun news for everyone, which, I think their goal is to be the greenest city in Georgia. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
The greenest city in Georgia. What that's going to look like.
Yeah, really.
It's not going to be great.
Mm-hmm. They're doing a great job so far.
Yeah. Well, Kevin McCarthy resigning from his position. No one actually knows what he's going to be doing. I have a feeling it may be a Senate seat that he'll be going for. That Dianne Feinstein seat. That's my guess. But
he might become an expert journalist.
Or a lobbyist. Either one of those, because I do think that he had about $1 billion in IOUs from the lobbyists when he was kicked out of the speaker seat. So we'll see how that ends up for him.
Just a coincidence.
Yes, but I mean, he was caught on camera in the last couple months talking about how he looks at the Democrats versus the Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
I look over at the Democrats and they stand up. They look like America. We stand up. We look like the most restrictive country club in America. And I decide then either I am going to be the leader of a declining end of a party, or I have to change the opportunity in this party. So I embrace in something else, okay? Since that time, we've elected the most women, Republicans, the most minority Republicans ever to the House. But to do so, I'm going to have to ruffle feathers. So for a Republican woman or a Republican minority to win, the November election is not their tough election, it's the primary. So what I do is I would engage in primaries. And I would help. And sometimes you lose some, sometimes you have problems.
Yeah, you do.
Well, and he definitely doesn't sound like he's pro-conservatism or pro-Republican in that video. And I believe that he's on a stage at one of these Davos or WEF or one of those conferences when he's speaking. But, Bill, I think that this is the exact problem with the Republican Party. We have people that represent us that actually don't promote less government. They don't stand for what we stand for. And they vote... They run with an R behind their name, but actually have no intention of living up to the values or the principles of the Republican Party. And that damages the brand of the Republican Party because we aren't living up to those principles or ideals. And it's because we are electing people that we think will represent us well, and they don't.
And it is the sad part is that Republicans are staying away from the polls. You have to go vote. And you can't sit around and say, well, they didn't vote the way I wanted them to. Well, you didn't vote the way we wanted you to, like voting to begin with. And it has to be overwhelming, okay? in this next election coming up, it has to be overwhelming. We can't just get win a slim margin. It has to be a landslide. It has to be the red tsunami that we were hoping we were going to have last year. It has to be done because you can overwhelm the system. Now, I don't care how much they've figured out how to cheat, and we have to fight, learn how to street fight.
Well, I also think it's applying pressure to our elected officials in ways that maybe they're uncomfortable with. But the voting system, regardless of how you feel about it, it hurts Republicans. We have a narrative out there that, there's issues with the machines. There's a lot of fraud in 2020. And whether you believe there were fraud or not, that it doesn't matter. The impact is there for our voters. And in my opinion, this would qualify as voter suppression. And the fact that our elected officials have not risen to the occasion to make sure to give the public confidence in the elections, I think that that's the real problem, Bill.
We keep telling them, we want you to do this. This has been the most frustrating thing to me with the Republicans. They said, well, we need the House in order to do this. We gave them the House. Well, we need the Senate to do this. We gave them the Senate. So when we need the presidency to do it, we give them all three, and they caved like a cheap mattress when it came to when Obamacare came up again, and they didn't vote. They didn't vote it out.
Well, I even think in our very own state, we see that. We have majorities in both the House, the Senate, and we have a Republican state house, governor, AG, Secretary of State. I mean, that's debatable. I don't really see Brad Raffensperger as a Republican, but nevertheless, he ran with an R behind his name and was elected. So I do think that it's an issue at every level of government. When Republicans are in charge, they govern moderately. When the Democrats are in charge, they govern to the left. That's the problem.
As dictators.
Yes. So I do think that's why you also see so much more frustration on the Republican side, is because they aren't getting what they want. It doesn't matter who they elect. The results still seem to be fairly much the same as far as being able to get more conservative things passed within the House and the Senate.
Yeah, it is amazing to me that we said, well, they said they go along to get along. We said, well, if I vote for that, it's going to be controversial, or I'm going to get bad press or whatever. That's what you ran on to begin with. That's why we put you there. We have your back. Don't worry about it, because the press is not going to, no matter what you do, the press is not going to be on your side to begin with. Forget all that.
Well, despite the press not being on the Republican side, we still have a state Senate that is ruled by Republicans in this state, and we still have a House that is ruled by Republicans in this state. We also have a Republican governor. Again, the press not necessarily on the side of Republicans, but still managed to have majorities in both those. So I don't think that's always a good argument.
No, and this bipartisanship is for the birds.
Well, right. It's definitely not for us.
Well, that's for sure. All right, coming up next.
Well, Casey DeSantis recommending that you get involved in the Iowa caucus.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about that when we get back.
Register in Iowa.
When you're looking to buy a business or sell a business, the experts at Best Business Brokers have you covered. Whether you're ready to cash in on your years of hard work or you're taking that first step in buying a business of your own, they're here to guide you through the process and make sure you get the best outcome possible. By having Best Business Brokers assist you when you buy a business or sell a business, they handle the legwork of the intricate process. This ensures a smooth transition of ownership, allowing you to get to work immediately or receive payment for your business as soon as possible. With base operations in Savannah and Charleston, they service all of Georgia and South Carolina. If you're considering starting a business here, the mild winters and 5-tiered economic areas make these the perfect places to do so. If you're ready to buy a business or sell a business, then you're ready to contact Best Business Brokers. Visit their website at b3brokers.com or call at 912-349-0940.
Foxy Loxy, Coffee Fox, and Henny Penny, making life better for Savannahans with their kolaches, tacos, coffees. They're just amazing. Buy local and keep the torch lit.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Here we are on Tuesday. It is the 12th day of December. 12/12.
Woohoo.
Yeah.
And Vicki Bradley's with us. She says doctors who are not tied to corporate hospitals in rural Georgia used ivermectin and hydroxy and found success with it. Yes, I think that you are probably a lot better off if you were in a rural area than if you were in a city during the time of COVID. So, disclaimer, we did talk about COVID and we did talk about ivermectin. Therefore, we could be off of Facebook and YouTube tomorrow. So catch us on Rumble if you cannot find us. So just a little disclaimer there.
Isn't it interesting that all of the things that were good for you, they told you not to do? Get out. People were arrested for taking their kids to a park.
Don't get any vitamin D. Do not exercise.
Yeah. They were closing gyms in New Jersey. Once again, and Governor Phil was asked by Tucker Carlson, what in the Constitution gave you the right to do that? He just laughed and said, we didn't even consider the Constitution when we were doing this. Exactly. That's how Democrats work. It's great to be a Democrat, isn't it?
It sure is. And it wasn't just New Jersey. They were closing down gyms. It was all over the country.
Oh, yeah.
And definitely was not in good faith, I don't think. So I do think that those were trying times for all of us, but hopefully it's woken a lot of people up. But time will tell. I think we have something brewing for 2024. Not sure what that's going to be, but I think it's coming.
And how well those vaccines work. Remember the USS Milwaukee couldn't, in the Navy, could not carry out one of its assignments a few months back because the crew was had come down with so many crew members they couldn't perform their duties. And all of them were fully vaccinated.
It's weird how that works.
And boosted. Yeah. And the ones who refused to take it kicked out, and now they're saying, oh, you can come back now. Thank you very much. Please.
Yeah. Well, moving on to our next topic, the DeSantis, he actually did fairly well in the last debate. Still not as charismatic as I think most people want to see from a president, but definitely he did a lot better last week in the debate. But they were on Fox, him and his wife, Casey, and very interesting stuff they were saying about the Iowa caucus.
Yeah.
We have a huge coalition across the United States of America of mothers and grandmoms. When the governor was reelected, we had a coalition of 1.1 million mothers and grandmoms in the state of Florida. That was the largest that had ever been done in the history of our state, and probably, I would argue, across the nation. We're asking all of these moms and grandmoms to come from wherever it might be, North Carolina, South Carolina, and to descend upon the state of Iowa to be a part of the caucus, because you do not have to be a resident of Iowa to be able to participate in the caucus. So moms and grandmoms are going to be able to come and be a part and to let their voice be heard in support of Ron.
That's not okay. If you don't live in a state, don't participate in their caucuses. That seems really, really in bad form for the DeSantis campaign. I don't know why you would recommend that, Bill.
Yeah, this is something that we hear from the Democrats of, go out, vote early, vote often.
Yeah,
that's exactly what this is the same thing on a different slant.
Yeah, I don't think it fared well for them to be on the show or to talk about descending on the Iowa caucus. I think that that's disingenuous, and it also disenfranchises a lot of the Iowans who get to vote in the caucus. So don't love that was the messaging. I think that was another mistake by the DeSantis campaign and strategy team.
Yeah, it's just, it kind of boggles the mind, because I don't think Ron should. I think he got bad advice. I don't think he should have run for president this time. I would love to have seen after he got voted in by this landslide, reelected by a landslide in Florida, and all across all demographics that voted in his favor. And it just showed what a great job he was doing as governor, because he'd gotten in by the skin of his teeth the last time. And to be a big supporter of Donald Trump, and to stay there. He's a very young man. He has plenty of time to run for the presidency. And I would have loved to have seen Trump pick him as the vice presidential candidate. That would have been an unbeatable combination, absolutely unbeatable. Then he would have been ready to step in to the presidency, because Trump can only serve one more term. So this whole whoever was advising him, I think, a pox on both your houses, because he had a big lead at first, and you've seen it dwindle over the last year. And it's and for Casey to come out and say something as ridiculous as this, come on and participate in the Iowa caucus.
If you don't live here,
if you don't, exactly.
That's pretty rich.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that there is, I think that he could have been a shining star in 2028. I think that could have been a really good option, but I do think that maybe it would take a while for him to earn back any sort of Trump vote. The MAGA vote is what they call it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more, it's not always about Trump. I think that I think the betrayal of Trump for Trump voters is what they care about. I think maybe in 10 years he could probably run for president again and maybe have a chance. But I do think that he has some things to work on. I think the charisma factor is a big one. And it's unfortunate, but that's reality.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's human behavior to want to choose someone that is charismatic and that you feel like is a winner. And there's a lot of memes going on with the Ron DeSantis campaign and Ron DeSantis. I just don't think he was ready for prime time.
No.
And he also disenfranchised a lot of the Florida voters when he said that he would stay governor and not be running for president. And then that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was that's another thing. That when politicians say that, and then they go back on their word, and people remember that. But it goes back to, as you said, the charismatic thing. When John Kennedy was running against Richard Nixon in the 1960 campaign, remember they had a debate on television, and the people who were listening on the radio said Nixon won the debate. People watching on television said Kennedy won the debate by overwhelming margins. And it's just the way it is. It's a charismatic type thing, and that's one of the reasons that Dalai Lama got elected. And he's not doing too much to endear himself, except standing behind the scenes as the puppet master, because this guy in the White House right now is so idiotic. How many more times are we going to, Brittany? Are we going to have to hear him talk about that fire in his home? That almost burned the place down, and he almost lost his dog and his wife and his 67 Corvette that was parked next to all that top secret documents that he wasn't supposed to wasn't supposed to have in the first place. But they haven't raided his house yet. But he was talking to firefighters yesterday. There were something like there was a $22 million bump from the federal government for these firefighters, and he's talking to them. And he's telling him how great it was, but he's talking about this bad fire in his house. And he says, "I'm not kidding." He said the smoke was this thick you couldn't see through it. He wasn't there. He was on either Mace the Nation or whatever it was that he was on that morning, and he wasn't even there. The fire report said it was a minor fire. They had it out, and they responded in minutes, and they had it out in minutes. And there was no danger to the house burning down. Yet every time you hear him embellish this story, it gets worse and worse. And he just didn't make it out. And his 67 Corvette was saved, along with his dog and his wife, by the way. So we keep hearing this story over and over and over again. I'm just glad he didn't say it when he went to the people in Maui.
Well, I'm sure that he, said he knows what it's like because he lost Bo in a fire. I mean, that would have been new information for everyone. He he's a liar. He always has been, regardless of the dementia that he currently is experiencing. He's always been a liar. I don't think that's. I don't think anyone can really debate that.
No, he grew up in he grew up in a Jewish neighborhood, then he grew up in a Puerto Rican neighborhood.
Well, he's still telling the Amtrak train story.
Yeah.
That has been proven false multiple times. He just told it last week. I'm like, okay.
Told again.
Yes.
From a guy who was already dead before he was in office.
Yes. He's an interesting human. The fact that he was elected is just beyond me.
Yeah.
Or selected, whatever you want to say.
For sure.
I do want to remind people there is a community meeting tonight, today at 6:30 at the West Chatham Middle School, and that's out in Pooler at 800 Pine Barren Road. And this is in regard to the schools. So the redistricting that's happening, also, the fact that they
ain't happy with this.
Yeah, well, and the fact that they still allow porn in schools. I mean, I don't know when that became allowed, but they're allowing it, and I think it's a good time for people to go ask about those topics and figure out what's going on in the school system and why things are not changing, and maybe why your kid can't read. Maybe that's a good question to ask too.
Yeah, for real.
So Michael Johnson is hosting that. He's the District 7 school board.
Good guy.
Yeah, I don't think he's done enough.
Good guy. Yeah,
I don't think he's done enough. I think that he's been very silent on a lot of things. So I think it's a good time to ask him some questions. And I think that, here's the thing, as an elected official, I can think you're a nice guy all I want. But as an elected official, there are certain things that I think are required. And I think bravery and courage are two of the things that we really need in this country from our elected officials right now, especially when they claim to be conservative. I think that they should behave as conservatives even when they're out in public. Imagine that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's my personal thoughts on that. So anyways, go out, participate. Also, John Burns will be in town tonight. He is going to be at the Skidway Island Republican Club, which is out on Skidway Island at the Palmetto Club. That starts at 5, and I believe his speech will start at 5:30. So if you are in town and would like to go participate in that, make sure you head out to Skidway Island.
All right. Meanwhile, Netflix has called for it has something that the Dalai Lama and his wife Michelle Mabel have participated in called "Leave the World Behind," produced by the Obamas, and it includes a scene that demonizes white people, even those guys half white.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm asking for you to remember that if the world falls apart, trust should not be doled out easily to anyone, especially white people. Even Mom would agree with me on that.
Yes, what? I think Netflix should be getting a lot of flack for this movie. This is so inappropriate. But I think it also tells you what they're doing. If you're white, you cannot be trusted, and you are everything that's evil in the world.
Yeah, and he should look at his background, because Obama is half honky, all donkey. Meanwhile, I'm going to wrap it up with a quote from Booker T. Washington. In case you don't know, he was black, and a black leader back in the back at the turn of the 20th century, 19th into the 20th century. And this is a classic quote from Booker T. Washington to let you know just how deep the racial business goes. And the reason that we won't solve racial problems because there's too much money in it. It is an industry now.
Sure is.
Listen to this, because Booker T. Washington died in 1915. So this is one of those, this is classic. I just happened to run across this a couple of days ago. Quote, "There is another class of colored people who make a business of keeping the troubles, the wrongs, and the hardships of the Negro race before the public. Having learned that they are able to make a living out of their troubles, they have grown into a settled habit of advertising their wrongs, partly because they want sympathy and partly because it pays. Some of these people do not want the Negro to lose his grievances because they do not want to lose their jobs." Booker T. Washington.
That's why history is so important, Bill, is because it's all based off human behavior. We don't change as humans. Our behavior is the same, even though the times do change.
I give you the Left Reverend Jesse Jackson and the multimillionaire who's paid millions of dollars by NBC, Al Sharpton. It pays.
Sure does. And let's not forget Crumb. Is that his name, the attorney?
Yeah. The ambulance chaser. Yeah. Yeah. He was back in Brunswick just recently over that policeman having to shoot a black guy and kill him. Unfortunately, had to use lethal force when the black guy was trying to kill him. Fortunately, the sheriff down there released all the video and said, "You tell me this was racism. You tell me." When this guy was trying to turn his head, the deputy's head into a Pez dispenser. It was amazing, and haven't heard a word from Crump since.
Weird. He'll be back.
He'll
be back. He's not going anywhere.
You'll see him. Remember, Black Lives Matter, that BLM organization. Black Lives Matter when they're killed by the police.
Well, that's going to do it for us today. Remember to get involved with us and support us at thelocalspin.com.
Can't do it without you.
Yep. We need you to become a member. We need you to donate or advertise with us.
Please help. Or come next year, we won't be here. And next year is 3 weeks away.
Yes. So we appreciate you tuning in, and we will see you guys tomorrow.